Why did a hospital administrator take my son from our front yard and tell me she had every right to? 5 years ago, I would have told you my life was boring in the best possible way. My husband Mark, our son Theo, pancakes on Saturdays, bike rides after dinner. Then one afternoon in October, I stepped inside for maybe 4 minutes to answer a phone call, and when I came back out, Theo's scooter was lying on its side in the driveway, and he was gone. The police came within the hour. We searched the neighborhood until 3 a.m. We printed flyers, did the news interviews, sat through polygraphs, nothing. A woman 2 streets over eventually remembered seeing a silver sedan idling near our house that week. It was registered to a shell company. Dead end. Everyone was baffled, including the detectives. 3 years passed and they hollowed us out. Mark and I stopped being partners in grief and started being reminders of it. We divorced quietly. I moved to an apartment across town, worked my pharmacy job, and turned down every setup my coworkers attempted. What was the point? Then one evening I stopped at a pharmacy in a suburb 40 minutes away to pick up a transfer prescription, turned past the vitamin aisle, and my entire body went cold. Theo, taller, hair longer, but Theo, holding a bag of cough drops like any normal 8-year-old. I couldn't move. Part of me was sure I was hallucinating, that 3 years of grief had finally cracked something. Then I whispered, "Theo, baby, it's mommy." He looked at me, and I will never forget his face. Not recognition, fear. He dropped the cough drops and bolted down the aisle, straight into the arms of a woman in a blazer. I lost my mind. I was screaming for someone to call 911, that this was my kidnapped son, that she was a criminal. I lunged for him and he grabbed her sleeve and hid behind her, shaking, staring at me like I was the monster from under his bed. The woman looked down at me with something worse than anger, pity. "He's not your son," she said calmly. "He's mine. He always was." And then the pharmacist behind the counter said, "Everything okay, Dr. Ellison?" They knew her. Everyone in that store was looking at me like I was the dangerous one. I went for her anyway. 2 customers pulled me off, and while I was pinned against the cooler, she made a phone call, and 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the back of a security office, and the person who walked through that door was my ex-husband. Mark sat down across from me, and Dr. Ellison said quietly, "Tell her she's owed that much." He couldn't look at me. "Theo isn't yours, Claire, biologically." The room tilted. 11 years ago, before we got serious, I was with Dana. She got pregnant. She was finishing her residency. She wasn't ready, and I convinced her to let us raise him. We never did the legal paperwork right. When she finished her training, she wanted him back. So she stole him? No, Dana said, and her voice was steel. I filed for custody. I did everything through the courts. Petitions, mediation notices, 3 separate summonses to your home over 18 months. Your husband ignored every single one, so a judge granted me custody by default. The pickup was supervised and court authorized. I have every document. "I never saw one paper," I said. "Not one." And then it landed on me like a building coming down. I looked at Mark, who always got the mail, who handled all the boring stuff, who let me stand in front of news cameras begging a kidnapper to bring my baby home. "You knew," I said. "For 3 years, you watched me plan vigils, and you knew exactly where he was." He finally looked up. "If you'd seen the documents, you'd have learned about Dana, about the lie our whole marriage was built on." I couldn't do it. I kept thinking I'd fix it somehow. And Theo ran from me. Why is my son terrified of me? Neither of them answered. That silence told me everything. It came out later, in court, because yes, I sued them both into the ground. Concealing the summonses was obstruction and fraud, and during the custody hearing, it was established that Theo had been told by both of them that I was an unstable woman he'd been rescued from, that the mother who read him dinosaur books every night for 5 years had been rewritten into a threat. The judge's ruling took 20 minutes. Mark's parental rights gone, Dana's custody revoked for the alienation. I got my son back, along with court-ordered family counseling that we still attend every Tuesday. Last month, Theo fell asleep on my shoulder during a movie, and I sat there for 2 hours without moving. I'd waited 3 years. My arm could wait too.